Welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on a quick project for the backyard. It all started right here. We set 18 eggs in the incubator and exactly 8 hatched out. That's just under a 50% success rate. We also got 2 extra chicks as a gift, bringing our total to 10. They're growing fast, and this temporary indoor cage is getting crowded. As soon as the weather warms up, they need to go outside. The solution is this 2x3 by 2 meter walk-in run. I picked this coop up from Kaufland for 2,465 Czech crowns, which is about 101 euros. It's a great, budget-friendly option to get them outside. Oh boy, this will be interesting to cut to size. Each pipe is clearly numbered, making the layout fast and simple. Step 1. I laid out the base piping to map out its size. The entire bottom perimeter locks together quickly, giving us a solid foundation. Following step 2 in the manual, it's time to install the vertical uprights that form the main walls. And it's completed. These 3-way corner joints are key to the structure. They tie the base, the uprights, and the side rails together into a single rigid corner, keeping the whole frame square and stable. Looking great. Moving to step 4, it's time to install the roof gables on each side and lock them directly into the central ridge pole to complete the roof pitch. One thing you'll notice during assembly is that the pipes leave a greasy residue on your hands. The factory applies an anti-rust oil coating to protect the galvanized steel from moisture while it's sitting in the box. The entire metal skeleton is fully erected. I suppose the easy part. Here we go. Things are getting interesting now. The kit includes sharp self-tapping screws with rubber washers to secure the joints. Interestingly, there are no pre-drilled pilot holes in the tubing, so I'll have to drive them straight into the metal with a drill. Here is the hardware. Let's get organized. To make sure the door frame ends up perfectly square, I used a straight piece of lumber across the top and a ruler to measure the distance on both sides. This guarantees that the door won't bind up later. Because there are no pilot holes, drilling straight into rounded metal can cause the screw to slip and scratch the frame. To prevent that, I used a sharp spike from an old hanger hook to punch a small starter indent. This gives the screw a perfect guide point so the drill doesn't wander. As you drive them in, you have to be incredibly careful not to strip out the thin metal tubing. To play it safe, I stop just short with the electric drill and use a small 8mm wrench to tighten them securely by hand at the very end. Next up is the door latch lever. It uses a specialized carriage bolt with a square neck that locks into the frame so it won't spin, paired with a nylon lock nut that keeps it from vibrating loose. Once it's tightened just right, the latch smoothly drops up and down to lock the door securely in place. To double-check the frame alignment, I used an L-shaped square right in the corners of the door. Then, I installed the one-sided T-bracket. This time, there are serrated flange nuts instead of nylon. The small teeth on the bottom bite directly into the metal to lock it tightly against the frame. With the corners squared and the latch secured, the completed door is now fully assembled and ready to be installed into the main frame. Finally, I lined up the door and secured it straight to the A-frame of the front gable. Next, I tested the swing of the door. I deliberately left the nuts loose for now, so you'll notice the frame sags just a little bit, but it will pull together perfectly straight and square once everything is fully tightened down. To tighten everything up, I'm pulling out my trusty Parkside ratchet. Say what you want about Lidl tools, but for DIY jobs like this, they are incredibly cheap and get the job done perfectly. As I crank down on the hardware around the hinges and brackets, you can see the frame lifting. It's time to go around systematically torquing these down. Now that's a perfect swing. With all the bolts fully torqued down, the whole front assembly feels solid and should easily last for years to come. Moving on to step 7, It's time to unroll the wire mesh. We will be wrapping it tightly all the way around the metal skeleton. Ow, that's a lot of zip ties. I will use a pair of sharp metal shears to cleanly cut the mesh down to size. Securing the one end with zip ties, I pulled the mesh taut around the outer frame. I'm going to leave excess mesh around the tube structure just in case. Well, the lateral mesh wraparound doesn't exactly match what is on the instructional diagram. I may have been able to get a few centimeters by stretching the mesh more vertically. Oh well, we will deal with this later. I'm able to cover up the unwanted gap by extending the roof mesh. I hope they have given us enough material. The large main mesh pieces are installed. Time to cut the smaller pieces to size. Her name is Mina. I am using 2 pieces of lumber to hold the mesh flat while I measure. Well, all the mesh is installed. One error I made is that I didn't leave extra mesh hanging from the door. As you can see, there is a gap where small chicks can escape. It will have to be corrected. Bungees to hold down the top. The bungees are quite loose. We can create a new knot. We are almost finished. There are still many zip ties remaining which will help tighten up the mesh. And here is the finished product. It's not in its final resting position just yet, so I haven't installed those tent-style ground anchors. I also attached the bag of leftover zip ties right to the door in case anyone wants to add extra reinforcement later. Since the build is officially complete, how about we bring out a little test subject? Let's let a little chick check out his future home for a minute before we officially move the run to its permanent spot. Initial observation, complete immobilization. This is his first time outside the indoor incubator, and the sheer scale of the surroundings has triggered a temporary system freeze. He isn't moving a muscle, likely processing the drop in temperature and the texture of the open ground. After 20 seconds of acclimatization, we have signs of life. The baby chick is beginning to vocalize with regular pee-pee signals, indicating he's starting to navigate the space. However, this is just a brief atmospheric test. The May air is still too cold for a permanent stay, so he will be returned indoors to his chickmates until the overnight temperatures stabilize. Soon, the habitat will be fully operational and ready for deployment. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe.